Some are attracted to church plants because they feel small, they feel comfortable, intimate. People are deeply connected. You're kind of in the trenches together, you're doing stuff, you're forming stuff, and they like it that way. But clarity with your vision will help people understand there's an imperative for pushing through barriers, for being uncomfortable in order to reach the lost. And that change will always be part of what we do here. It's part of the Christian life in an ongoing way. And therefore it helps them reassess why it is that they might be joining.
In this section, we're grappling with the question of what does this church exist for? To answer this question, we're going to look at the vision and the values of your church, but we need to frame the conversation before we get there. So Derek, how should we approach this topic?
So when it comes to vision and mission and values, everyone has an opinion on this. Everyone wants to take a crack at it, which is good. When you're planting a church, you have an opportunity to think about this from the ground up. The cement is wet in your church plan, you get to form it, and while there's lots written on this topic, when it comes to a church planting context, there are some small but important differences that you want to consider as you move forward.
So as we consider this for churches, for church plants, as Derek said, there are a number of different ways people express the vision, the mission and the values, but we're really trying to drive towards biblical simplicity and we don't want to over-engineer it. So before we talk about why this is important, what are some ground rules for how we approach it?
Just three quick ones. First one is, we have been given the same mission. We've all got the same mission as Christians. It's the same for all churches. It's that Matthew 28 vision, that great commission of going and making disciples. No matter time or culture or country or context, doesn't matter. This is the mission that God has given us to see people come to know Jesus and come to grow to be like him. That is the mission that we have all been given. That's the first one. Second one is this. When we think about our vision and values, we're going to think of it in such a way that we're going to hang everything else off that. It's going to shape all that we do. That is where we're heading and what we're doing on the way. We're going to unpack that in the following sections, how we do that. But this is an exercise in biblical contextualization. And so we're going to need to think deeply into how it is the mission that we've been given is contextualized in the place that we are planting and the people we're trying to reach. Third, the reason we want to get it right early on is because the structures of our church actualize our vision and our values. It actualizes our vision and values. So structures, the plumbing of the church, they exist to serve the mission. They exist to move us towards the vision. We'll get to how that works later, but spending time in the vision and values up front allows us to let the vision and values filter through to every other part of our church rather than them distracting from where it is we're trying to go.
Planting Australia is available in three formats, video, audio and as an ebook. Go to genevapush.com/planting Australia. So then as you prepare for launching, the purpose of this discussion is clarity. Clarity on who you're trying to reach and how you're trying to reach them. Derek, you've got three reasons why clarity is so important, and your first one is that it helps others to join you.
Yeah, look, people are going to join church plants for mixed reasons. Obviously, we've all got mixed motives. Some join church plants or change churches because they have a connection to the person who's leading, or the people who are leading it. Now, that's not necessarily bad, but you never want that to be the primary reason for joining a church plant. In leading a church, the goal is that people would be captured by the biblical vision that you have put forward, the people you're trying to reach, and building a community around the gospel rather than building a cult of personality. So clarity, as you're doing that, for who you're trying to reach and how you're planning on doing that, that will help others join you for the right reasons.
Okay, and your second point is that it helps others not to join you. Want to explain?
Look, this is important. It sounds weird, doesn't it? But it is important because some are attracted to church plants because they feel small, they feel comfortable, intimate. People are deeply connected. You're kind of in the trenches together, you're doing stuff, you're forming stuff, and they like it that way. They cling to those moments. But clarity with your vision will help people understand that this is great and good, but it's not always going to be like that. There's an imperative for pushing through barriers, for being uncomfortable in order to reach the lost. And that change will always be part of what we do here. It's part of the Christian life in an ongoing way. And therefore it helps them reassess why it is that they might be joining. Some Christians are attracted to church plants in the hope that they will provide everything they didn't get at their last church. Or they will provide a context for every theological quirk that they have. Now, they wouldn't call them quirks, but that's what they are. Now, those who feel hurt by their previous church, they're going to bring that in, as we all do. But you want to help people get onto the same page about why it is that you're here, what this church is based around, what it exists for, so that they can decide whether they want to be with you in that mission or not.
And lastly, you mentioned that this clarity on your vision and your values will help you to say yes and no with greater clarity.
Yeah. So look, in a church plan or a relaunch, you want input, you want ideas, you want collaboration in that as well. But you want a common framework and an endpoint as well that guides people towards where you're going. Not just allowing people to go whichever way they want. Now, not all ideas are equal. Not all ideas are valid either. Just because someone puts a hand up, it doesn't make them right. The only way it can be determined whether it's one or the other, though, is by both having a vision, an endpoint that you're heading towards, and a framework within which things get decided beforehand. So clarity on where you're going as a church will offer you a more consistent reasoning and framework for embracing one suggestion over and above another, saying no to things and saying yes to things.
Yeah. Okay, so to move towards this clarity for you, for your partners and supporters, for those joining your launch team and those who will join in future, where we're going to from here is to talk about and articulate the vision and values for your church plant. As you begin to sketch these out, you'll build a bit of a framework for you and for your team, start fleshing out the details for your church and how you're looking to mature and mobilize the saints to reach those that you're planting to reach. And
it's going to be reflected in these visions.